No.
What were you doing, young lady? Stopping myself.
Yeah, stop stopping myself.
Well, stop!
But they're so happy that
Just stop!
and I stop myself.
Huh? We'll put it behind you. You just pointed to where it was. Just move it. Yeah. You went, stop, it's right here.
Yes.
So I went, how's it feel now?
Actually, much more relaxed.
How about that shit? That's NLP, ladies and gentlemen. Put it in a fucking different box. Right? You have not tapped into a tenth of a tenth of a tenth of the power of your nervous system, ladies and gentlemen. What we got is the equivalent of handing a supercomputer to a monkey to write Word documents. That's pretty much what we got. We got a supercomputer, and guess who the monkey is? Guess who the Word documents are? All right. How's that feel, by the way? By the way, how does that feel?
Fabulous.
Try to bring it back. Notice what happens instead.
I don't do it.
Oh,
I mean, literally, when I first said it, I was like, as I said stop, my heart jumped. And you put it behind me, and I was like, wow, okay.
Seems like magic. And it isn't. How many of you passed the test? All right, it is 1 minute after 7. Welcome to NLP Power / NLP Power / NLP Power. I am your host, David Snyder, and the large person blocking the view is my good buddy Brian McCall, who's also big round of applause for Brian for helping facilitate the sound system. I ran into Brian about 2 years ago at the HypnoThoughts hypnosis convention, and we really hit it off. And he came to a bunch of our trainings, and he's been excited about the prospect of working with people and building practice groups and helping hypnotists and people who want to learn how to do these things better develop those skills. The important thing to remember is that NLP Power is not a certification system. It's a skill building one. Yes, I do train people. Yes, I do offer certifications. That is not done through NLP Power. NLP Power is about getting the life you want, the way you want it, right now. Giving you the tools to go out and get the results you're looking for, rolling up your sleeves, doing the drills, and getting the skills, right? There are thousands and thousands of people who are my fans and subscribe to me online. Probably many more in Florida than are in this room. But they're not here. You are. That makes you special. That makes you different. It means you got up off your ass and you want something, right? And that's who gets ownership in the world, is the people who get off their ass and do the work. And keep doing the work, because it doesn't end. The moment you clear out all your shit, you'll find a whole new layer of shit waiting to be cleared. It's what you become on the way that defines you. It's how you respond to the challenges and the setbacks and the unexpected things in life that determine the quality of your life. It's the questions you ask yourself and the quality of the questions that you ask yourself that determine the directions your life takes and what your neurology sorts for. Your neurology, your nervous system is the most powerful, the single most powerful reality creation, information processing system on the planet, short of the planet itself. It must, almost pathologically so, seek to answer any question you put to it, regardless of how stupid it is. No matter how badly ill-formed the question, your nervous system will try to generate an answer. I will prove that to you right now. Why, in fact, is the moon made of green cheese? Now, after you get that, what the fuck did he just ask me part? Notice what your brain does next. It laughs and it starts generating a rationale. What does he mean by that? Maybe it's this. What if he's coming from that? Maybe cheese is a metaphor. Maybe the moon means it's a code for something else. Right? Welcome to the work of your neocortex in action. Your neocortex, the newest layer of our brain, the parts of us that we pride on separating us from all the other mammals out there, is an idiot. A very imaginative one, which is kind of weird considering what the neocortex actually does. The neocortex is your rational, lying brain. It is designed, first and foremost, to generate a backstory that justifies the actions and the perceptions that you've decided are true. Notice what I said. You decided are true. Okay? Your conscious mind, that part of you that thinks it's in charge, is like my 2-year-old. Very cute, very cuddly, demands more attention than any other part of the family, and gets the least done. Right? But it screams the loudest, so it gets the most attention. First things first, we need to understand the difference between a conscious response and an unconscious one. Unconscious responses have the following parameters. A, they always come first. Understand that? They always come first. They're always true. Regardless of how illogical, irrational, completely unconnected they may seem. They are always the truest. You will always, always feel like you're making it up. It will always have that quality to it. If it doesn't, we have medicine for you. Relax, laugh, it's okay. The medicine is in the form of oxytocin in the back of the room. I am very upset about my candy situation. I was recently informed that my white chocolate Kit Kat, dark chocolate Kit Kat variety packs will no longer be available, and I'm very heartbroken because I knew down to the minuscule. I split tested this rigorously. I knew exactly which ones you would eat first. I knew which ones you would eat second. Yes, sir.
If you have emotional feelings about that, we can use the spinning technique to fix you up.
I could, but I just don't give a shit. I knew. See, first you'll eat the dark chocolate, if we had dark chocolate, but we don't. Then you'd eat the white chocolate, but we don't. Then you'd leave the fucking milk chocolate for me, you bastards. Okay? So, but the second runner-up is always Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. So we have tons of those. We have Twix bars back there, Milky Ways, Three Musketeers. Help yourself eat as much as humanly possible, because the more oxytocin, the more chocolate you eat, the more oxytocin gets delivered to your system, the more plastic your neurology becomes, and the faster you change. That, and I also do weight loss. But you'll get that tomorrow. So when we talk about the neocortex, its job is to lie. 9 out of 10 people, if not 10 out of 10 people who walk into my clinic and tell me what their problem is where they think it happened, are lying. They don't know where that shit started. In hypnosis, we call that the presenting problem. I get people who come in with post-traumatic stress, and they think it was their time overseas that fucked them up. We regress them to cause. The very first scene, situation, or event that is the very source of that very first experience, they're fucking 5 years old. Now, unless you're one of those, a 5-year-old carrying a real M16, I don't think it has anything to do with what happened over there. Okay? Doesn't mean it's not connected. But when we deal with a lot of these things, we have to go back to the most fundamental, primal, foundational time of your neurology, when your neurology was the most plastic, when you had the least amount of defenses. And we need to find out what was put there and who did it. And we need to deal with it there. Because when you deal with it there, everything connected to it starts to unravel. It loses its mooring, its foundation, and it becomes much, much more easy to change. Now, that's not something we're going to do in a meetup, okay? But those are things that we do every day in the clinic for everything from post-traumatic stress, obsessive-compulsive disorder, heroin addictions, all the way up to terminal cancer. I was very fortunate to study the work of a man who I think is an unsung genius, and a lot of people have forgotten about him in the hypnosis world. His name's Stephen Parkhill. If you have not read his book, Answer Cancer, get it.
Who's that again?
Stephen Parkhill, Answer Cancer. Parts of it are just him ranting against society, but other parts are very, very powerful in terms of their therapeutic implications. It can free you from terminal cancer, it can free you from just about anything. The problem is you need the skill sets to get there. Tonight is about skill sets. Tonight is about your outcomes using the tools that I've learned and honed and I use every single day. Okay, some you may know, some you may think you know. Right? But the goal tonight is experience. The goal tonight is to go there. Right? That being said, one of the things that we do a lot of times when I'm teaching events like this is we have this process I've created called bucket listing. And bucket listing is a way of organizing your issues by order of intensity. What inevitably happens in our worldview is when we think of something we want to fix. How many people have something here they'd like to fix? Cool. How many people here they have something they want more of? Oh, good. How many people here aren't going to raise their fucking hand no matter what I say? If you're not raising your hand, you might as well leave. If you won't raise your hand, you certainly won't do the rest of it. Right? You need to buy in. You don't need to. You can stay the same if you want to. It's your choice. I'm just going to show you what to do. You do it, you get the change. You don't do it, you won't get the change. Right? My shit works. Did that thing come back yet? Oh, fuck. You're stuck feeling good. You're stuck being unstoppable. What a suck deal is that? I guess I can cross you off my list now. Right? No, I want more. Okay. So what was I talking about? What was the last thing I said?
Bucket listing.
Bucket listing. Okay. Inevitably what happens is the way human beings are designed is the thing that bothers us the most takes up the most bandwidth in our brain. So when I talk about, when we go to, most of the time we like to do things ourselves. Right? My demographic falls into 3 distinct categories. And they all deal with shit. Right? Seek human influence technologies. Right? We have people who come to me to learn how to fix their own shit. Would that be somebody in this room want to fix your own stuff? Right. Then we have a smaller segment who want my help to fix their shit. Anybody here in that range? Okay, we got stuff for you too. And then there are those people who I call a special kind of stupid. They're people who want to go around fixing other people's shit. Right? Raise your hands if you want to help fix other people's shit. All right. I got a special course for you. The best part is they're all the same technique. They're just little tweaks if you're using them on yourself versus using them with somebody else. Okay? One of the problems when we're doing self-work is many times our consciousness, our level of awareness is operating at the same level as the problem. In order for you to gain control over an issue, you must find a way to disidentify from it. Now that does not necessarily mean dissociate from it. What it does mean is separate the problem from who you are as a person. You have to make a cognitive shift. The Russian sports psychologists, Soviet sports psychologists back in the 70s, when they were sweeping the Olympics, discovered that when their athletes learned how to disidentify from a specific aspect or set of behaviors, they gained powerful and complete control over it. When they were identified with a specific persona or personality, you have more than one, by the way, that persona controlled them. And so one of the things that they began to teach was how to disidentify within your own neurology so that you could understand where it fell in the order of going from an environmental thing to a behavioral thing to a values thing to a belief thing to an identity thing to a spiritual thing. And many times what's screwing us up is that we have that thing confused at what level it should be at. Many times we confuse things we are with things we're doing. You get people who say, I'm a smoker. Anytime you hear the words I am or I have, that is what we call an identity statement. Anytime you hear something connected with an identity statement means that that level of problem is as personal and connected and as immutable as their arm. And they will fight on some level just as hard to keep that problem as they will their arm. Part of what we have to do as self-aware organisms is we have to reorganize that level of problem, that level of conflict, from something we are to something we believe, something we do, something we deserve or not deserve, something we're capable of, or something that's just in the fucking environment. Because if you can't do that, there's no amount of hypnosis in the world that's going to help you. I get people all the time who come to me and we do hour session after hour session, and they go home and they come back the next week or the next day and they say, nothing happened. I said, well, you do anything different? He goes, no. Oh! Did you have the urge to? Yeah. Well, why didn't you? I thought I was done. No. For every change we install, you've got to make it real. You've got to act it out. You've got to externalize it. Some of you were in here earlier when I was saying if you can't describe what you want, you don't know what you want. The most important filters in our neurology are the ones that allow us to move information from the inside of us to the outside of us, whether it's in the form of writing, the form of speaking. Any form of externalization allows us to solidify and make what we want more concrete at a neurological level. So you get to this point where I know what I want. You're trying to write it and say, I know what I want, right? And then I'll just know it when I see it. No, you won't. I promise you, you won't. But the minute you force it through that process of getting it on paper, you look at it and go, well, that's not exactly right. And you'll sit there and you'll tweak it for an hour, right? And in that process, you will actually hardwire your nervous system to get it. But there's a firewall that keeps you from pushing that through that membrane. And that's the first one we got to jump through. That's why we got to get out of our fucking head and back into our bodies. So everybody stand up. All right. I will give you the theory on how this works later. I find that many times telling people how this shit works and why it works only gets in the fucking way. So here's the first thing we're going to do. Am I pretty in the picture there, Tracy?
Yes.
Do we need more chairs? He's getting some? Okay. First thing we're going to do is we're going to learn to feel good for no fucking reason. How about it? Would that be good?
Yes.
All right. So first thing I want you to do, I want to teach you really, really quickly how to never be depressed again. Would that be all right? Would that be a good place to start? Because most of our shit happens when we're feeling bad. True or not true?
True.
We go for that, the minute we feel bad, we go for the refrigerator. Right? The minute we feel bad, we go looking for the hot blonde. Oh, that's just me. Never mind. Don't tell my wife. But anyway, sorry. Bad, David. Bad. All right. So here's the fastest, most reliable, most powerful way to change anyone in 2 minutes or less. It's called physiology, posture, and breathing. So here's the deal. For every psycho-emotional state that you have, there is a corresponding breathing pattern and posture that goes with it. It's a feedback loop. We tend to think that when we try to control our... I knew that was going to be a problem. All right. Fuck it. I'll just draw. I'll just have to do it in the air. Right? Here's the mind. Here's the body. It's a feedback loop. One leads into the other. We're taught in this culture that the mind controls the body. No. The mind is the body. And the body is the mind. And what happens is, unless you go through some kind of very, very specialized training, like special forces training, where you're, in freezing cold water for hours on end, and you have to learn how to actually do calculus equations while in that water, the first thing that's going to happen when stress hits your body is your butt's going to pucker up, your brains are going to drop out, your conscious mind's going to shut off, and you're going to default to whatever's there that nature put in there. Okay? Your conscious mind will be the first one gone. Your willpower will suck. Okay? Your willpower is a finite resource. It's based on two components: the amount of sleep you've had and the amount of glucose in your system. Okay? The moment either one starts to deplete, you default to pre-programmed hedonistic reptilian behaviors. It doesn't matter how many weeks you've been on a diet. The minute those SRUs, is what we call that combination of sleep and glucose, the minute those units drop below a certain threshold, you're in the fucking refrigerator up to your elbows, finding the next pizza and cold beer you can get your hands on. Even if you hate pizza and cold beer, because it leads to better feelings. It leads to a state change. You look at an addict. Most addicts will tell you they know consciously that whatever substance they're going to use is actually going to make them feel worse, but anything's better than what they're in right now. Everything human beings do is a quest for state change. You follow me? And if you think that you're conscious, the problem that we have is that we try to regulate conscious mind stuff, or unconscious mind and body stuff with our conscious mind, which is the first thing that's going to go. The moment you have to exert control, conscious, willful control over an emotional experience, you burn up SRUs like you just floored the gas pedal on your car. And you only have a finite amount. So the environment can overwhelm you, the people in the environment can overwhelm you, everything has the capacity to overwhelm you, and especially emotions, positive or negative. The difference is negative emotions, we feel drained. Positive emotions, we tend to not feel the drain until the emotion subsides. Now we go, oh, right? But it still drains us. The fastest way to change your state, and there's good science behind this, I was teaching this for almost 10, 15 years before the science came out. The fastest way to change your psycho-emotional state is to change your body. Change your posture, change your breathing. So here's what I want you to do right now. I want you to all think back to a time in your life when you saw something that you really wanted. I mean, lust wanted, right? And you made a decision in that moment that you were going to get it no matter what. You made a plan in your head. Maybe you put it on paper. You put that plan into operation, and you nailed it. Home run. I want you to remember that moment when you realized you got it. You realized you nailed it. And as you do, I want you to see what you saw. I want you to hear what you heard. I want you to feel what you felt. I want you to let those feelings come flooding back into your body. And most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to stand and assume that posture you took when you realized that feeling. I want you to stand that way. I want you to hold that head up. You may notice you're yawning. That's usually a sign of clearing, by the way. It means some shit was in the way that just got blown out. That's a good sign. There'll be a lot of yawning tonight. Either that or I'm really fucking boring. I'm not sure. Okay. Now notice as you let that feeling come flooding back. We're going to do several things with this. This is where we start. I want you to just let that feeling double and triple, quadruple. And while keeping that exact same posture, that exact same breathing pattern, without changing anything, consciously try to feel bad. Keep your body the same. Try to feel bad. Notice what happens. Ed, what happens?
Can't do it.
Can't do it. Oh, fuck. Neri, what happened? Can't do it? Shit. How about you, big guy? Good. Now, everybody turn and look at Tracy, because I want you looking at my ass when we do this next part. Right? Now, for this next part, everybody start to think about what you had for breakfast yesterday. That's enough. Good. Probably wasn't that good. Now I want you to remember a time when you saw something you wanted, you made a decision, you put it into action, and you didn't quite get there. You didn't make it. I want you to see what you saw, hear what you heard, feel what you felt. Most importantly, I want you to remember that feeling in your body when you realize you didn't get it. It wasn't going to happen. I want you to go back to that posture that you had in that moment. Go back to that breathing pattern in that moment. When you know you've got that, without changing anything, not your posture, not your breathing, consciously try to feel good and notice what happens. Notice you can't do it. Now, hold on to that depressive, disappointed feeling as strongly as you can. And what I want you to do now is shift your body back to the positive winner physiology. Just shift your body, but try to hold on to the feeling and notice what happens. What'd you notice, Bodie? Fucking good, huh? All right, turn up, look over here. Say wave hi to Tracy. What'd you notice?
I noticed that I was able to make myself feel better just by
Exactly.
like that experience.
You get somebody who's suicidal, first thing you do is you change their physiology, they burst out laughing. It's stupid. Literally. Can I use you? Okay. I literally had a guy, he's kind of tall, much taller than you. He walked into my office and it was an emergency, right? I don't usually take suicidal, people with suicidal tendencies without a lot of referrals. But his mom I'd healed her hip and she was all excited and stuff like that. But he walked in and head down, just he's in super I'm going to kill myself mode. And he's used to therapists kissing his ass and telling him, everything's going to be better and sweetness and light. And I said, motherfucker, put your head up. Shoulders back. He goes, ah! He starts laughing right in the middle of the room. Right? So put your head down. Right? Get all depressive. Right? Be suicidal for me. So much for following instructions. But anyway, all I want you to do now is just lift your head up, push your shoulders back. Notice what happens to the feelings in your body.
I feel better.
Feel more light, right? Here's the thing. There's no state in your body that can overcome your physiology. None. And the Chinese knew this 5,000 years ago. They knew this 5,000 years ago. They just didn't articulate it the same way we did. Give this big lady a round of applause. You guys can have a seat. We're gonna stand up in a minute, but I'm gonna wax metaphorical for a moment. So how many people are involved in some kind of energy work or Qigong or martial arts? Okay, how many people here have ever heard of a practice known as standing on a stake or standing as a stake? Okay, I taught it to you, I know. All right. There was a Qigong system that developed many thousands of years called Ling Kong Jing. It means powerful empty force. Actually, it's empty is not the right word. It actually is void, which is something completely different. But people who were practitioners of Ling Kong Jing, either for martial arts or for healing, developed tremendous, tremendous ability to influence other human beings without physically touching them. Okay? So a lot of acupuncturists would study the healing version of Ling Kong Jing. A lot of martial artists would use a similar process with much deeper stances. The interesting thing about that particular discipline and what I'm sharing with you today goes back the kind of meat at a video put out by a woman named Amy Cuddy called Power Poses. How many people here have seen that video? If you have not, that is your next assignment. By the way, I'm going to spew videos and resources and reading lists at you. Write them down. Find them. I should start a fucking affiliate account on Amazon because I'm missing out on a hell of a lot of money. But these are I want you to not believe me. I want you to check the sources I cite and how I put it together and convince yourself. Right? Just do the research. Right? I don't take credit for the sources. I take credit for the synthesis. Okay? In Amy's work in social psychology, she discovered that when you held specific types of body postures, and her research was specifically focused on dominance postures, alpha male postures. Postures like, have you ever seen the chairman of the board pose, where they're kind of leaning over? I call it the gorilla. If you're in San Francisco, this means something completely different. But I'm just so not going to be able to air this video. But anyway, so that's one of the postures. I call it the gorilla. But you've ever seen the chairman of the board pose where he's just leaning over that conference table and it's very in-your-face kind of an energy. Another one is what I call the Wonder Woman pose. Right? And then you have the victory pose. Everybody on the planet, when they win, even blind kids, when they do something that just makes them happy, their hands just shoot up like this. Right? So there's at least three. There's probably one more that I'm missing. Feet up on the desk. Yeah. Don't do that in a boardroom or negotiation. It's not real good. But the cool thing about the research was that when people held these postures for at least 2 minutes, their testosterone rose by as much as 25%. And their cortisol dropped by a corresponding amount. So not only did they become more assertive, more aggressive, more authoritative, and more dominant, they became more relaxed. 2 minutes. Now ladies, testosterone is the achievement hormone. So even though you're estrogen-based life form, you need testosterone too if you want to be successful. If you want to be that dynamic, outgoing go-getter instead of a doormat. Yes. Because that's what happens. Even though testosterone and estrogen are only a couple molecules apart, one will turn you into, Rocky, hopefully with a little more brain cells. The other one will turn you into a doormat. We need to find that balance, which is what Chinese medicine is all about, finding that balance. You get to choose what that balance is, though, right? So the idea now is, how does this all relate to 5,000 years of Chinese medicine, medical theory, neurolinguistics, and what we're doing today? Every posture has a corresponding psycho-emotional state. Every posture also changes your hormonal balance, because every any emotional fluctuation is based on a hormonal change. There's a hormonal correlate. So if you change the endocrinology and you change the physiology, you must change the psychology. How does that relate to 5,000 years of Chinese medicine? Well, I told you one of those poses that Amy taught was this. Well, there's a top secret pose in every Chinese martial art that has Qigong. It's so secret that everybody does it, but it's a secret, so everybody knows about it. And it looks a lot like this. Now, people who practice this particular pose would stand there for hours. Hours at a time. Now, if a 2-minute pose bumps your testosterone up by 25%, what do you think standing like that for 6 fucking hours a day is going to do? And in Kong Jing, people were known for ridiculous amounts of strength, even though they had very, very small bodies, right? There's a whole lot going on here, okay? Your physiology and your energetics, when they're right, almost always match up. It's called the law of analogy. For every energetic phenomena that you experience, every emotional phenomena or subjective phenomena that you experience, there is an organic correlate that mediates it. The fact that we haven't found them yet. By the way, did I mention I'm taking cell phones as a donation? Right. So, if all you did each morning was stand for 2 minutes, your day would change. Okay? You would be immediately 25 to 40% more relaxed and a hell of a lot more assertive and dominant without having to resort to willpower. Right? And it's tactical. You can do it as many times a day as you want. You can do it for as long as you want. Okay? This is called State Control 101. The secret to everything I do is about learning how to modulate your neurology and your own psycho-emotional states. The most reliable, powerful, and effective way to do that is through your body. Always. Right? Our conscious mind wants us to believe that it can do everything. Yeah. Right? I'm reminded of that old joke. How many people here know who Emu Phillips is? Emu Phillips was a comedian who had a brief flash of brilliance during the 80s. And he said this, he had this one joke, and he would go, you know, I used to think that the brain was the most fascinating organ in the body. And then I realized, look who's telling me that. That's your neocortex. Your neocortex is telling you how wonderful and powerful and how master of the universe it is, while the unconscious mind's running the meat. You have to get back in touch with the meat suit. You've got to get in touch with who's running the show. I call it talking to the boss. The way we do that is through getting our physiology engaged and engaging the imagination and acting out the changes that we want. When you do that, you've hit the password that allows you to go to what I call the subliminal user interface. You guys all know what a graphic user interface is, right? You've been using them every day. That little touchscreen thing you work with has lots of cool pictures on it. You make them bigger, smaller, move them around, hide them, delete them. Who do you think had that first? Apple? Say no.
We did.
You did. Human beings inevitably create technology based on some process the neurology's already doing. Right? You have an iPhone. You have a touch screen, right? How many people here ever watch, I'm a total geek. I admit it, I revel in my geekness. And I love superhero movies. Anybody here like superhero movies? Right? Here's something. We talked about absorption and focus. We've covered the absorption part. Let's get a little bit more about the focus part. How many people have ever gone to a movie?
Where?
How many people have ever gone to a movie? Cool. Now, you know how sometimes you walk into that movie theater, got your best girl or guy on one side, big fucking basket of popcorn on the other. You're walking down the hallway, which one's going to be more fun? Right? Not a role model for impression movie. You sit down in the chair, the lights go down, the movie starts, and then 90 minutes, 120 minutes, 240 minutes later, the credits are rolling. You realize you have this massive ache in your bladder because you stayed for the very last Easter egg in the film, right? Can you tell me at what moment you became completely absorbed in that movie? No. Because if you could, you weren't. Right? People have seen way too many of my fucking videos. I got to change my script. My point, though, is when we go through these processes, the more you can do that, the more powerful you'll get the change. Because this brings us to what I call smart person syndrome and hypnotist disease. Smart person syndrome is that part of us that wants to evaluate every fucking thing and prove it doesn't work on us. So what happens is I'm guiding you through a process and I'm saying, touch it, reach out and point out the picture, blah, and there's a part of you that's trying to do that, and there's this little tiny part of you going, what the fuck is he doing? Is that working? I don't know if that's working. Feels like it's working. Right? Now, if there's a part of you trying to be the passenger, part of you trying to do the exercise, part of you analyzing if the shit's fucking working, how much absorbed are you? Say not. Right? So we have this is your neocortex trying to again usurp the process. It's like the little 2-year-old. Hey, I'm still here. Fuck you. All right? All right? So be absorbed, be playful. Then, of course, there are people who are actually trained in the techniques of hypnosis and NLP. I won't hold that against you. We call, and you guys don't really have, you have your own personal version of smart person syndrome, and we call that hypnotist disease. Hypnotist disease is a similar process, again, negates absorption in the process, but takes on the form of part of you is trying to be a good subject and do the job, but there's another part of you kind of hanging out going, that's a good fucking suggestion. I'm going to steal that. This motherfucker's better than me. I'm pissed. Right? Because you're always looking if he's better than you or something you can steal. Right? Again, forget that shit. Be playful. Be as little children. Be playful with this. If you can point to where you feel it, you can change it. But sometimes, every so often, we tap into an emotion that's really fucking strong and it limits our ability to focus. You know what you do then? Change your physiology. Change your breathing. And you will exert control back over the meat. You can't beat it. You can be in a war zone and do this body work and significantly calm yourself down. Because the physiology controls your psychology. It is the exact opposite of what we are taught to believe. And it's why we're fucked up most of the time. Fucked up being a technical term. I haven't come up with a cool acronym for you. Right? We're not broken, guys. None of you in this room, I don't care what problems you think you have or what your doctors have told you that you have. In the world according to David, you ain't broken. You just need a software upgrade. Right? Diseases, I deal with all kinds of diseases. I did a hypnotherapy session on a guy for chronic obsessive pulmonary disorder. He smoked for 40 freaking years. And at the end of that session, he was breathing better than he had in 20. So what's real and what's not? Everything your body does is an attempt to get your attention. It's an attempt to communicate something that is going on in your internal environment that needs to be addressed. But nobody tells us this. And so we run to every specialist on the planet trying to find a solution. Well, as Stephen Parkhill used to say, you will run out of body parts long before your unconscious mind runs out of ideas for getting your attention. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that physical problems don't exist. I'm not saying that at all. I am saying that the vast majority of stuff I deal with, we find out what the emotion is and what the triggering event is, the symptoms go away and so does the problem. Sometimes it goes away fast, sometimes it goes away slow. But it's all doable and it's not magic, although it certainly friggin' seems that way. But it starts with your body. It starts with learning how to access the neurology in a way that's testable. But to get to the point where you can test it, you have to fully engage in it. How many people here would like to feel good for no fucking reason? Stand up. It's party time, baby. Okay, so here's how it starts. I want you to look immediately to the person to your right or the person to your left. Hold out your hand, look them in the eye and go, get into it, enjoy it, feel good about it, be fucking ridiculous. Raspberries for everyone! Very good. Now, that dispels two myths right there. A, I can fucking get you to do anything I want in spite of what you want to do yourself. Second is it gets us out of this idea of making a fool of ourselves. That is the root of all evil. We take ourselves way too fucking seriously. Seriously. So when you can laugh, when you can be fun and outgoing and playful like a little fucking kid, you can change it. I promise you, you can change it. So here's what I want you to do. I want you all to think of a time in your life when you felt the most wonderful, excruciating, amazing pleasure of your life. Now, you don't have to tell, not that one. You don't have, the other one. No. You don't have to tell me what it is. You don't tell me who was involved. I don't care. But all I want you to do is close your eyes. I want you to remember what that felt like. And I want you to notice as you focus in on that feeling. I'm pretty sure your arms weren't crossed when you were feeling that pleasure. But I want you to notice there's a specific part of your body, a specific place in your body where that feeling emerges and where it starts. And as you do that, I want you to point to it, if you can, in polite company. Point to where you feel it. If not, just imagine. And as you point to it, I want you to look inside with your inner eyes. I want you to notice there's a color connected to that feeling. What's the color? First impression. You don't have to tell me, just know what it is. Now when you know you've got it, I want you to physically reach into that spot with both of your hands. Take all that energy out, hold it in your hands in front of you. Make sure you get it all, because sometimes that shit hides. That's right. I've had people pull for 20 minutes, so I don't care how long it takes, get every last drop. That's right. When you got it, hold it in your hands, take a look at it. Notice, first thing I want you to notice, did the color change or stay the same? First impression. And whatever it is, it's perfect. As I want you to look at it, I want you to notice it's moving. It's spinning in a certain direction. What direction's that shit spinning? First impression. Excellent. Now, since this is something we want more of, I want you to physically grab it with both of your hands. And just like you would spin a wheel, spin it like a wheel in that new direction. Double the spin, double the speed, double the force, double the magnitude. Keep doubling it over and over and over again, faster, 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 until it takes on a life of its own, until it's impossible for it to go back the way it was. When you know you've got it, slam it back into that spot. Notice the change. Notice it just gets stronger. Notice as you allow that new program to work its way deeper and deeper into your neurology, any belief, any feeling, any experience, any program that's running that's not in harmony with that new set of instructions, the neurology is going to begin to purge. It's going to begin to shed. It's going to begin to uninstall it, like old software being uninstalled by newer, better, more powerful software. Just notice the process happening. Allow it to take place. Let your body do whatever it needs to do. And when you know you've got it, when you know it's locked in, try to turn it off and notice what happens instead. When you know you got that, open your eyes, look up here. Notice how good you feel. What just happened?
Killer.
Killer! What happened, Bodie? That shit worked now, didn't it? Oh yeah. You're sweating. By the way, a lot of you may be sweating. That's okay. That's part of the process. I've had people yawn, twitch, their eyes roll back in their head like they're possessed. Their body temperature soars. Let it happen. That's how your nervous system does it. That's how you do it. If you can point to where you feel it, you can change it, can't you? Hell yeah, right? She's like, ah! I love that shit. Right? We're going to play with this a lot tonight, but this is where we start. Now, that's drill number one. That's called psychosomatic neuromodulation, or we could just say spin. Right? Next part, point to where that feeling is in your body now. Now, I want you to notice as you point to where you feel it with one hand, I want you to use your imagination, if you would, and I want you to notice that there's a picture floating somewhere in the space around you that represents that feeling. I want you to reach out with your other hand and just touch it. Excellent. Excellent. Now take both of your hands. Trace the edges of it with both of your hands so you know exactly how big that shit is. Shit being the technical term, mind you. Now grab the edges of it. And just like you would expand the windows on your iPhone, make that thing as big as an IMAX movie theater screen. Notice what happens to the feeling in your body. That's right. Excellent. Now put it back to its original size. Now, while holding it at exactly the same size, all I want you to do is pull it closer to your body, keep the size the same, and notice what happens to the intensity of the feeling. Stronger or weaker? He's ready to go home and go, I need a cigarette. Put it back to where it was. Excellent. Lift it up over your head. Now pull it down over your head and around you like a big friggin' blanket. Notice what happens to those feelings in your body. Oh, he's having a good time now, baby. Yahoo! Right? I'm going to show you some cool shit I don't normally show in a minute. Good stuff? Now let me show you how much other power you have. Unwrap it. Lift it back up over your head. Now, I didn't say put it down. Get that hand up there. People can't follow instructions. Now, you can have this back in just a moment. You guys all know what a Frisbee is? All right, I want you to imagine that picture is now like a Frisbee, and I want you to throw it all the way back behind you, behind the horizon. Just throw it back there. Ed, what happened to the feeling? It's gone? Oh, shit. What happened to the feeling? It's gone. Neri, what happened to the feeling? It's gone. Damn it. It's yours?
I can't find it.
Fuck! Okay. Imagine you have like super magnets in your hands, your big old vacuum cleaners, and go suck that sucker back. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is yours. It's yours to do with however you want, however you please. It's your way of discovering exactly what your neurology is capable of, and it's still just the beginning. Since this is yours and you have the right, the authority, the permission, and the responsibility to make it as wonderful as you want, put it where you like it the best, where it will do you the most good. Just put it in, wherever you want it. And let that energy soak in. Let it sink into every part of your body. Let it find its way into your bloodstream, moving throughout every level of your mind, every level of your body, changing the very DNA in which you're made of, until it becomes a natural, permanent part of the way you live, the way you think, the way you breathe. And when you know you've got it, you know it's locked in, try to turn it off and notice what happens instead. Oh shit, you mean you're stuck feeling good? That's a suck deal. Give yourselves a big round of applause. You may sit. Questions? Yes?
I noticed when I both of them, around my head, it's almost like it felt stopped up.
Stopped up?
Yeah.
Okay.
There was, the first one, it was strange as I just tilted my head and it was almost like sand in an hourglass pouring out and it went away. But the second time, it's almost like cotton just shoved itself right back in.
Cotton just shoved itself right back in. How would you get cotton out that you just got shoved back in?
Well, I don't know how I got in.
So why don't you just reach in and pull it out? Just keep pulling until you know you got it all. Got it all? No, so keep pulling up. You got it all? Sure? Is there any reason why you might want to keep this?
No.
Okay, as you look at it, I want you to notice something. Notice there's this color connected to that feeling. What's the color first?
Gray.
Excellent. So notice it's moving. It's spinning in a certain direction. What direction is it spinning?
This way.
Physically grab it with both of your hands. Make it the opposite of what it was. Now double the spin. Double the speed, double the force, double the magnitude. Keep doubling it over and over and over again until it takes on a life of its own. Until it's impossible for it to go back the way it was. When you know you've got it, slam it back into that spot. Notice the change. Notice it's gone. Notice as that program works its way deeper and deeper into your nervous system, any belief, any feeling, any experience, any program that's running that's no longer in harmony with this set of feelings, the neurology is going to begin to shed. It's going to begin to purge like a snake shedding its skin, like old software being uninstalled by new software. Just notice the process happening, that whatever feelings come up, that's just the detox process. Allow the process to take place. When you know you've got it, try to turn it off and notice what happens instead.
It's weird. It's like it comes, there's still that
Scale of 0.
sand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Scale of 0 to 10. What was it before? What is it now?
Before it was packed in, almost to the point of like having a sinus infection.
Okay, and now what is it?
And now it's just draining.
Oh, so let it drain and just let me know when it's done.
Okay.
Okay? Big round of applause for the lady. Your neurology is very much based and runs on repetition. NLP has a concept we call a convincer strategy. Now, in old school NLP, they would have very long, drawn-out ways of eliciting somebody's convincer. The thing we need to understand functionally about a convincer strategy is that it's basically a set number of reps that the nervous system has to cycle through before it accepts the new program, it accepts the new instruction. But we can just, as a hypnotist, we can just shortcut that right to the bone and say, just keep doing it till you know you've got it. That way, if Ed's convincer is 7 reps and Bob's is 47 reps, I ain't going to impose a strategy on him. I'm not going to have to elicit. He's got to do it 47 times. I'm just going to keep doing it till you know you've got it. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So, what we did with her, how's it now?
It's clearing.
She's like, By the way, feelings and emotions will come up from this. Let them. That's the process you got to understand. When you do this a lot of times, especially if it's on something you've been holding in for a long time, you just open Pandora's box. The body is going to go through some very weird physiological expressions. All right? Let it. The problem that we have is we live in a society that's teaching us to bottle up our feelings under the guise of control. That's not control. That's repression. Repression gives you cancer. Repression gives you diabetes. Repression gives you leukemia. Repression gives you Alzheimer's. Repression gives you colitis. And God, what doesn't it do? It's the feelings we lock in our body that kill us. I can't stress that any more blatantly than that. Everybody has a certain threshold of emotion that they can contain in their body. For those of you who have an energy background, emotions are chi. Period. And unless you know how to manage that shit, it's going to manage you. Okay? I'm teaching you how to run the system now. But you've got to let that system vent. Because for every unit of energy you keep locked in your body, you need an equal or greater unit of energy to keep it there. And since you're constantly acquiring more shit, you reach a point where an energetic pattern becomes a physiological lesion. In Chinese medicine, we would say qi stagnation becomes blood stagnation. Well, emotions are qi. That qi gets stuck somewhere, and it creates a physical mass or correlate based on the energy in that area. And before you know it, we've got all kinds of problems in the plumbing, right? But we can help, we can fix it by releasing the emotions, by getting the body engaged and activating the neurology, utilizing the body's own coding system. NLP is fundamental in this process because it gave us the one thing we were missing in most of our energy healing disciplines. It gave us the code that was imprinted on the energetic matrix that the body was using to run the program. At the most basic metaphor, I want you to think of it this way. Medium, message, and player. Right? The medium is the energy in your body. When you think of energy as a real phenomena or just a hypnotic construct, it doesn't really matter. But that energy is like a DVD, a rewritable DVD. The message is printed on the energy. The energy is programmed. Follow me? The body is the player. Does your DVD really care, or does your DVD player, how many people have a DVD player at home if we even still use that shit? I remember when that shit was like cutting edge. I was like, Dad, you are like so backwards. Right? Does the DVD player care what's written on the DVD? Not so much. It'll play whatever. At the level that we're working at the level of neurology that we're working at, the level of information we're working at, the neurology doesn't care if it's a physical pain, an emotional pain, a physical lesion, or an emotional energetic lesion. All they care about is that the information is encoded on a vibrational matrix that the nervous system understands. So all years of NLP aside, if you can just figure out how you've coded the information, you've already got enough information to start to change it. The first thing you need to understand is everything, and I'm going to close the loop I opened at the beginning of this training. Everything human beings do, they do because of a feeling in their body. It's either a feeling they want less of or a feeling they want more of. What we've been learning up to now is how to find those feelings and begin to unlock the code that your neurology uses to manifest it, to play it. That's what we've been doing. And in the process, we've given you tools. Tools that if you just work with them, you can change whatever you want. Now, sometimes, how are we doing on time, by the way? It's 8 o'clock. Okay. I'll go a little bit longer and we'll take a break. When we'll come back, we'll start doing some hardcore stuff. Like this wasn't hardcore already, right? Sometimes, remember that everything in the world according to David, and there's always exceptions to every rule, so, you know, if what I say resonates with you and you can use it, take it and run with it. Go out, use it, help as many people, including yourself, as you can and tell me what you've discovered. Tell me how you've helped people. That excites me. I get emails all the time of people telling me how wonderful I am, and thank you for that. But you know what really gets me excited? Is when I get an email from somebody who used this on somebody else and changed their life. That thrills me like nobody's business. And I keep a record. I have tons of these things of people just like you going out. I had one with, you weren't at that training. You weren't at that training. I had one of the first real world I did. I had a lady, wonderful lady, her name's Pam. She came through my 5-day hypnotherapy certification. And on the last day, she was going home. And she was going to San Diego Airport. And one of the guys in her flight was Desert Storm vet, I think it was. And he had some kind of a major meltdown in the middle of the airport. They were getting ready to call security on him and the whole 9 yards. She literally walks up to him and goes, point to where you feel it. And spun it away. 2 minutes, done. And he followed her around the airport and sat next to her on the plane to make sure she got home safe. And when they parted company, he gave her his Wounded Warrior jacket. Okay? That's the power you have. You don't need to know a lot. You just got to be willing to fucking do it. I don't tell you how all this shit works because you don't need to know. You just got to do it. Sometimes knowing too much gets in the way. Does that make sense? And the more you do it, the more you'll discover, the more you'll learn. If you could see yourselves the way I see you. I look into the hearts and minds of thousands of human beings a year, and I know what's there. Regardless of what packaging you're wrapped in, whether you're super hot or, as George Carlin put it, suffering from severe appearance deficit. Inside each and every one of us is a scared little child terrified of being alone and desperate to be accepted and loved. That's what we all are. Own it. But remember something, our parents can't teach us what they don't know, so stop blaming them. Stop blaming them. We'll get into that. That's a little bit deeper than I wanted to go, but everything the neurology does, it does for a positive reason. It's trying to do something to help us, even giving us a tumor. Believe it or not. When you regress people to before these things happened, first of all, I'm excited to have an entire wall as a whiteboard and really pissed off that this fucking monitor is right where I want to write. But can you guys all see over here? Okay. If you think about the genesis of an illness, and this could be a physical illness or it could be a post-traumatic stress problem, it could be an addiction, it could be something. It doesn't matter if it's a physical lesion or whatever. You have what we call an initial sensitizing event. Okay? The very first scene, situation, or event that is the peg that all that stuff gets hooked on. And then you have a bunch of little subsequent sensitizing events. Not all phobias happen instantaneously. Sometimes they have this thing called threshold. Let's say the problem manifests up here, and it was hooked here and had an intensity level about a negative, like a 0.1 or 0.2. But each and every one of these added more weight, like adding a piece of paper onto another piece of paper onto another piece of paper. And at some point, it reaches a threshold where it manifests because there's too much energy and there's too much pressure in the system, and we manifest a physical reason. The body says, hey, we can't fucking deal with this anymore, and I'm going to keep kicking you in the ass until you deal with it. It's pretty much what the body's doing in its own unique way. And our conscious mind looks at this shit and says, oh, I'm fucked up because of that. Because maybe you were going over a bridge when all of a sudden you manifested this traumatic fear of heights. And so you assume that that's what caused it. No, not necessarily. You just happened to be on a bridge when shit happened from when you were 5. Got overloaded. And we associate, we anchor. So in hypnotherapy, we'll stimulate this and we'll springboard back to whatever we need to that very first scene, situation, or event. Now, from this point, I think I have a bridge phobia. I get back here, I find out I fell off a ladder when I was climbing my house, and that's the reason. It's been building over all those years, and at some point, I happened to find, my unconscious mind happened to notice a similarity in where I was and what I was doing that somehow matched that. Because that's what your unconscious mind does. It looks for similarities and links things together in a non-linear format. That's why a lot of times, when you regress people back to this shit, the first thing you see is, what the fuck? because they're expecting to see themselves going over a bridge 5 years ago. And they're not. They're hanging off the side of a house because the ladder fell. Right? Because they consciously have an expectation of where those things started. And it's almost never true. They're connected in some way. Now, the interesting thing is, once you clear this here, all of this makes perfect sense. If you view the problem from the ass end, it doesn't make sense because it's being parsed by the conscious mind. When you clear it from before the event, everything makes sense. Okay? That's what you'll run into many times when you start doing a lot of the deeper inner work, is where you go and where you end up will not make sense. It will not be anything like what you expect. And if it is what you expect, be suspicious. Why? What are the dynamics of an unconscious response?